Let's get right into it. Number 10, the year without a summer picture. This, it's June. You've spent all spring planting crops, and suddenly, bam, the sun basically rage quits. 1816 was the year when summer didn't show up. No warm days, no harvests, no barbecues. People were literally sledding in July. You can thank one very moody volcano named Mount Tambora for that. When it erupted in 1815, it didn't just spit a little lava, it blew 100 cubic kilometers of ash into the sky, enough to block sunlight across the entire planet. Temperatures dropped, crops failed, and global famine followed. People started eating grass, pets, and each other's hope. Livestock died en masse, food prices skyrocketed, and the skies turned a creepy shade of orange-gray, like the world was permanently stuck in Instagram's apocalypse filter. In Europe, starving farmers rioted and burned cities. In North America, desperate families packed up and migrated west, chasing the idea of somewhere, anywhere, where the sky wasn't crying ash. Meanwhile, a group of bored writers trapped indoors by the endless gloom started telling ghost stories. One of them? Mary Shelley. She wrote Frankenstein. So yeah, civilization almost collapsed, but at least we got a goth icon out of it. Basically, one angry volcano made the world forget how sunlight worked and gave us an early preview of climate change. Beta edition. Number 9. The potato panic. You'd think something as harmless as a potato couldn't take down a continent. But you'd be wrong. In the mid-1800s, Ireland had exactly one plan: grow potatoes, eat potatoes, worship potatoes, probably dream potatoes. Then one fungus showed up, Phytophthora infestans, and suddenly the national food supply turned into black goo. This wasn't just a bad harvest. This was 5 years of starvation, disease, and desperation. 1 million people died. Another million fled, many to America, where they were greeted with open arms and mild racism. The Irish potato famine wasn't just a tragic blip. It was a full-blown civilization reset button for an entire country. What made it worse was the British Empire's idea of help. Instead of sending food, they kept exporting Irish grain to England because, capitalism. So while fields rotted and children starved, ships full of perfectly edible crops sailed right past them. The famine reshaped global demographics, drove mass migration, and changed how nations thought about food security forever. And it all started with one microscopic plant parasite. The moral: never underestimate what one tiny organism can do to your entire species, especially when you're depending on it for dinner. Number 8. The Bronze Age blackout. Long before Rome or Greece were even a twinkle in humanity's eye, there was the Bronze Age, a time of shiny metal, big trade, and people writing on clay tablets about how awesome they were. Then, around 1200 BCE, everything fell apart. We're talking total systemic collapse. Cities burned. Trade routes vanished. Empires like the Mycenaeans, Hittites, and Egyptians all fell like dominoes. Imagine every major city on Earth today suddenly losing power, communication, and food supply, and then throw in pirates, invasions, earthquakes, and famine. That was the late Bronze Age. Archaeologists still aren't totally sure what happened. The leading theories range from drought to war to mysterious sea peoples who basically showed up, wrecked everything, and disappeared. It was like a historical DDoS attack. Too many problems hitting at once until civilization just crashed. People stopped making fancy metal tools and went back to using simpler stuff. Literacy dropped. Entire languages disappeared. For centuries, humanity hit the reset button, clawing its way back up like a player who lost their save file. The kicker? This ancient collapse shows how interconnected societies can crumble when one system fails. It's like Jenga, but the blocks are climate, trade, and food. pull one out, and the rest come tumbling down. Number 7. The Black Death's population control. Ah yes, the bubonic plague, history's most horrific health reset. Between 1347 and 1351, this bacterial nightmare wiped out about half of Europe's population. Half. Imagine waking up tomorrow and every second person you know is gone. The plague spread through fleas on rats, hitching rides on ships, carts, and probably your neighbor's unwashed cloak. Within days of infection, people's lymph nodes swelled into grotesque lumps called buboes, their skin blackened. And then, game over. Doctors wore those iconic bird masks stuffed with herbs because they thought bad smells caused disease. Spoiler, it didn't help. But here's the disturbing twist. Civilization did bounce back, eventually. Labor shortages meant survivors could demand higher wages, feudal systems crumbled, and medical science got its first taste of epidemiology. The plague was horrific, but it also reshaped Europe into the modern world. Still, for a few years, it was pure apocalyptic chaos. Entire towns vanished. Cats were killed for being witches' pets, which ironically made things worse because, surprise, cats kill rats. So yeah, the human race basically outsmarted itself to death. The Black Death was like Earth hitting the factory reset button, and somehow, we made it through. Barely. Number 6. The great filter you're living through. Here's a fun, existential question. If intelligent life is supposed to exist all over the universe, where is everybody? That's the Fermi paradox, and the most disturbing answer is something called the Great Filter. It's basically the universe's kill switch for civilizations. The idea is that at some point in every species' evolution, they reach a critical stage, a filter, that most of them don't survive. Maybe they invent weapons that destroy them, or wreck their environment, or create an AI that decides it's tired of babysitting them. Whatever it is, it prevents them from going interstellar. Here's the creepy part. We don't know if humanity already passed the filter, or if it's still waiting for us. Maybe we've already survived the hard part, like evolving intelligence before we wiped ourselves out with sticks. Or maybe the real danger is just ahead, when our tech outpaces our wisdom. Nuclear war, engineered pandemics, rogue AI, take your pick. It's like we're contestants in the universe's deadliest game show. Billions of civilizations may have played before us. None won. And now it's our turn to spin the wheel. So when you think about how close we've come to annihilation, nuclear standoffs, climate change, superbugs, it's hard not to wonder if we're already halfway through the test. The universe is silent for a reason. Maybe everyone else failed. Sweet dreams. Number 5. The global financial meltdown of 2008. A. Civilization on layaway. Money is a funny thing. It's not real. It's just shared belief, a collective hallucination that keeps society running. And in 2008, that hallucination almost dissolved completely. Here's the short version. Banks started giving out bad loans, like candy, betting on people who couldn't afford houses. Those loans got bundled, repackaged, and sold as safe investments because everyone assumed housing prices would never go down. Spoiler, they did. When the bubble popped, the global financial system almost collapsed overnight. Banks failed, jobs vanished, governments scrambled to print money, and suddenly the concept of civilization looked a lot like a guy with 19 maxed-out credit cards pretending everything's fine. Millions lost their homes. Entire countries, like Iceland and Greece, went broke. And all because a handful of rich guys thought infinite profit was a sustainable business model. The weirdest part? Civilization didn't crumble completely, but it blinked. And for a moment, we saw how fragile it really was. If money is just belief, then 2008 was a mass crisis of faith. And like any religion, When people stop believing, the whole system starts to shake. Basically, your mortgage nearly ended the world. Number 4, the oxygen crash that almost ended evolution. Let's rewind a few billion years, before humans, before dinosaurs, before anything with eyeballs. The Earth's atmosphere used to be pure chaos. Then cyanobacteria showed up and said, what if we fill the air with oxygen? Cute idea, right? Wrong. Oxygen is toxic to most early life forms. When these little microbes started photosynthesizing, they poisoned the planet for everything else. It's called the Great Oxygenation Event, and it triggered one of the first mass extinctions in Earth's history. For a while, the entire biosphere suffocated under its own success. Oceans turned rust red, methane levels crashed, and temperatures plummeted into global ice ages. Life barely clung on, surviving in little pockets of anaerobic slime. So yeah, the air you're breathing right now? It's the byproduct of an ancient genocide. Civilization didn't almost collapse that time. It almost never existed. Next time you take a deep breath, remember, oxygen was once the apocalypse. Number 3, the nuclear oopsie that almost ended everything. We've come horrifyingly close to self-deletion more times than you'd think. Take 1983, for example. Soviet radar system suddenly reported incoming U.S. nuclear missiles. Protocol said, retaliate immediately. A man named Stanislav Petrov was sitting at the controls. One button press, and the world ends. But Petrov hesitated. He thought, that's weird. Why would the U.S. send just 5 missiles? He guessed it was a false alarm. He was right. The computer had glitched. If Petrov had followed orders, within minutes, thousands of nukes would have been launched. Cities would have vaporized. Civilization as we know it, gone before you could finish the sentence. And that's not even the only close call. In 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Soviet submarine captain almost launched a nuclear torpedo after thinking war had already begun. One officer refused to give permission. That's it. That's what saved humanity. We like to think civilization is built on systems and stability, but honestly, it's built on people having really good gut instincts at 2 a.m. The most terrifying truth, civilization doesn't collapse when someone wants it to. It collapses when someone accidentally presses the wrong button. Number 2, the tiny virus that rebooted the world March 2020. Remember that month? When your social life died, toilet paper became gold, and suddenly everyone was an armchair epidemiologist? COVID-19 wasn't just a pandemic, it was the ultimate stress test for modern civilization. One microscopic ball of RNA basically told the planet to sit down and shut up. Flights grounded. Supply chains snapped. Supermarkets turned into dystopian Hunger Games. For the first time in living memory, the entire world hit pause. Hospitals overflowed, economies tanked, and governments had to invent new words like social distancing to explain why hugging grandma might kill her. Civilization didn't collapse, but it flickered. The cracks showed. We learned how dependent everything is on everything else. You can't make a car if one tiny factory in Malaysia stops making microchips. You can't run a city if people can't work. You can't run a country if no one trusts the news anymore. And beneath all the Zoom calls and banana bread recipes was a quiet, collective realization. Civilization is a house of cards balanced on a sneeze. But here's the weirdest part. Humans adapted. Within months, we developed vaccines, rewired how we work, and learned to live with chaos. The virus nearly reset everything, but it also proved the one thing we're actually good at, refusing to die. Number 1, the silent collapse that's still happening. Here's the twist ending you didn't want. Civilization is collapsing. Slowly, quietly, It's just happening so gradually that most people don't notice. We like to imagine collapse as a big explosion, a meteor, a mushroom cloud. But most real collapses are boring. Crops fail a little here, prices rise a little there, birth rates drop, forests vanish, ice melts, and the whole time, everyone's arguing about gas prices. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts, climate change, resource depletion, economic inequality, mass extinction. No single one of them kills civilization, but together, they're the great filter in slow motion. Archaeologists studying the fall of ancient societies always find the same pattern: denial. The people at the top say, everything's fine, even as the wells dry up. Sound familiar? The good news, if there is one, is that collapse isn't always the end. It's a reset. After the Bronze Age crash came the Iron Age. After Rome fell, came the Renaissance. Humans are weird like that. We're terrible at preventing disaster, but excellent at rising from rubble. Maybe we'll invent something new, adapt again, and call it progress. Or maybe some future species will dig up our cities and say, these idiots built their civilization on fossilized dinosaurs and infinite growth. Either way, the story of civilization isn't about perfection. It's about barely holding it together and pretending we meant to do that. So if you're feeling anxious about the end of the world, don't. It's been ending for thousands of years. We're just really good at surviving the sequel. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.